meeting. Today's meeting will include an update summary, an overview from staff, followed by a discussion and vote on the funding recommendations and contingency plan for program year 2023 urban entitlement funds. This meeting has been noticed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. This commission acts in review and recommending capacity for Charleston County's annual action plan, which guides the allocation of urban entitlement funds received from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. If you wish to speak at today's meeting, please fill out the sign-in sheet by the front door. Go ahead, buddy. Okay. My name is Carter McMillan. I'm the chair for the committee, and to my right is Mayor Enoch Dickerson from the town of Lincolnville. We'll go ahead and start down to the far right with the legend down there.
Good morning, I'm Andy Binky from the town of Sullivan's Island. Thank you.
Nikki Grimble from the town of James Island.
Desiree Fragosa with the city of Isle of Palms.
Mayor John Dunmire, the third town of Hollywood, South Carolina.
Caroline Smith, financial representative.
Michael Allen, legal representative.
Michelle McClellan, town of McClellanville.
Michelle Reed, town of Mount Pleasant.
Thank you all for being here. The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the January 25th, 2023 meeting.
Mayor Dunmire, so move.
Do I
Second.
have a second?
I'll second.
Y'all want to take a second and look through the minutes? Anyone see any corrections or additions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I will actually add, I'm happy to not sit on the bylaw board, but I saw the list of who's going to sit on it. I'm not on there, but I thought it was supposed to be.
You're not listed?
I'm not listed on the committee on the review and updates on the board's bylaws to serve. I'm happy to do it. I think I was on that discussion, but
Can we?
all good.
Let's see. Oh, you know what I forgot to do, I guess, is to have the staff introduce themselves. Ms. Smalls.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here and serving. Gail Carson.
All right, the next item on the agenda is a project update summary and overview of the application scoring. Ms. Carson?
Provide a brief update. Since we last met, there's been some activity and some outcomes. We still have one open project for program year 2019, and that's Community First Land Trust. They anticipated starting the repairs in February, but the project is still pending legal resolution. It may not be until May before the legal resolution has been finalized and they can begin. They actually can't touch the project until the lawsuit has been settled. Program year 21, Palmetto Community Action Partnership. They This is a new construction, but they first have to demolish the project. The parcel has an older structure on it. It's been demolished. They did find asbestos and lead, so abatement has occurred. They are now in the process of bidding out the project. Community First Land Trust. Let's see, can I see this one? So the agreement has been executed, and they've asked for a project extension. We have cleared one parcel, but they have not yet bid out this project. So this project is also stalled with Community First Land Trust. And this is a new construction for homeownership. Program year 22. Most of our subrecipients are on target with their spending and their outcomes. So Homeworks, this is a home repair project, and they have 2 projects completed. They have submitted all of their environmental reviews for clearance. Operation Home, also emergency repair. They're 10% reimbursed, and they actually have more than one project completed. We just received some outcomes from them last week. Carolina Youth, this is a summer enrichment camp for children, and we won't see outcomes for this project until July because the project's 6 weeks. It starts late June, doesn't really end until late July, so we don't expect outcomes to be reported until late August or even as late as September. Charleston area seniors, this is a Meals on Wheels program, and they are 63% 53% reimbursed. They're always pretty good about getting their outcomes met. They serve Meals on Wheels to seniors in the rural areas, Adams Run, Eddie Stowe. Pro Bono, they actually reported last week, they are at 61 for the outcomes for Charleston County, and they actually have been reimbursed almost half of their Charleston County grant funds. Charleston Promise, they have served 105 youth, so they're on target as well. The Urban League, 40% reimbursed, so they're also on target, having served 23 individuals with fair housing services. D. Norton, also on target. East Cooper Community Outreach, this is a service providing medical assistance to uninsured and underinsured citizens. They're on target. Humanities, we're not showing outcomes for Humanities here for Charleston County because they also have a City of North Charleston agreement. A lot of our subs have both county and City of North Charleston funds, and we also administer those City of North Charleston funds. So we anticipate that Humanities will have their outcomes met by the end of the contract year. SOS Cares, this is one of our newer subrecipients, so it's taken them a while to manage this grant application, but we anticipate that they will meet their outcomes as well by the end of the agreement year. Town of Ondal, they have their agreement executed, they've submitted their ERs, and we anticipate all those funds to be committed based upon the environmental reviews they've submitted. Vision to Learn, they've completed 72 vision screenings. They next will provide glasses to the youth. Florence Crittenden, they actually had some outcomes. Let's see, they have 5 households have been assisted, and they're probably at 9,000 that's been reimbursed. Once again, we had reports coming in last week, so they're on target to meet their goals as well. 180 Place, they are 100% reimbursed. They submitted a claim last week, so we anticipate this project closing very soon for ESG, and that's the shelter that we fund. We fund their operations. Community First Land Trust. So once again, a stalled project. This is their Chota project. They submitted an ER. We don't have their underwriting complete, do we? So it's going to take a while for this contract to be fully executed. See, Metanoia, this is new construction for sale, and they have their ERs cleared. We anticipate them starting construction very soon. Community First Land Trust. This is their home money. This contract, once again, is stalled, and they have not yet bid this project out, and this also requires underwriting. Tri-County Weatherization, we have not executed or prepared their contract because they have not yet submitted parcels. They had several parcels identified, but could not go forward with purchasing the parcels. So at this point, they're now trying to select other locations to purchase. Any questions? Concerns?
Does anyone have any questions?
I do, just as a matter of still being new to this board. Does it typically, if there are outstanding projects, does that typically play a part in new funding opportunities, or should we view those separately?
That's a great question. I've thought the same thing. I've done this a number of years, and I've thought the same thing. Do y'all have a?
We are concerned when an applicant has a lot of money on the table.
Right.
We're concerned.
Okay.
I think it depends too, right? I mean, there's sometimes, particularly during COVID, there were issues with contractors and just getting, just having a good schedule in place. And so I sometimes we dig into it a little bit more, so it depends.
Progress too, how far along they are, and gotcha. Okay.
It's a concern. I mean, we certainly don't want to
Got it.
layer more
Yeah.
funding on a nonprofit that has stalled projects.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Practically speaking, when these projects, for instance, like Community First Land Trust, when they stall, does that kind of force their resources and kind of attention to resolve those current ones to where the chances of them being able to follow through on their next round that they're hoping for on the current submittals? I mean, seems like you'd have to kind of attack we use the saying in our office, the German soldier that's right in front of you at first before worrying about all the other, flanks. You got to take the one that's right in front of your trench first.
When we look at stalled projects, we do score that under performance and capacity. So I believe if there have been some concerns about stalled projects, you're going to see it reflected in our performance and capacity scoring for any of the nonprofits or subrecipients who applied. So we did capture our concerns for projects that had multiple years worth of funding that had not.
The time for us allowed them to get going again when it's stalled?
Projects stall for different reasons. Sometimes it's contractor delays, sometimes it is other funding that needs to be used and hasn't been acquired. We allow extensions. Once again, we're concerned when multiple projects are seeking extensions.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Are we ever concerned about entities coming in front of us requesting funds and using our funds from year to year to move forward, but with these projects stalled, are we keeping up with where they're spending these funds?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, they can't use program year 19 money for program year 21 project. That's why we have projects associated with ER clearance. They belong to a certain year. So we should see expenses based upon an address.
Okay. Okay. So it says questions from the public for the staff. Any questions from the public for the staff? when will, if anybody has signed up, when will they actually? Has anybody signed up to speak? Maybe, maybe not.
The presentation's not quite finished. So we have to switch off. But if anybody would like to ask questions now.
Okay.
No one? Okay, the next item on the agenda is a discussion concerning funding recommendations.
I don't think they're done.
Presentation's not finished.
You doing score?
Do a scoring overview.
Okay.
As a reminder, our scoring committee is made up of staff from both the county and the city of North Charleston. All of our applicants are allowed to request funding either from the county or from the city. You can request from both. So if applicants requested from both, they were assigned a score from each entity. And if they just request from the county, they'd have 2 county scores. In addition to scoring from that committee, we also have an audit that's completed by our financial officer, Mike Turner, as well as performance and capacity that's completed by Gail and Griffin. I know there was a question about how does, what the project update presentation, how does that impact scoring? And that's where that comes in, that performance and capacity review. And here you'll see there's 5 categories on which our applicants are scored. The first is alignment with community priorities. That's based on our consolidated plan. These are preset values based on projects. Priorities have been determined in this consolidated plan based on a needs assessment and community feedback. Project feasibility, worth 15 points. That's just, is the project doable? Are outcomes measurable and reasonable? And then 3, you'll see that performance and capacity again. Capacity is for new applicants and performance is for previously funded applicants. You'll see that this pot is 40 points, so it's going to have the most weight within the score. And you'll see in your scoring summary, which is that paper-clipped packet underneath your binder, there's a comment section. There's 3 different categories in which they could have comments: the general scoring committee, from performance and capacity, and from our financial audit. The performance and capacity comments are listed as P and C. So if there's anything that was extremely concerning, comments will be listed there. After performance and capacity, we have community support. And then finally, it's application submission. And that's basically just if their application was complete. The alignment with community priorities section, you'll see here for CDBG program scoring, our top priority is rehabilitation and preservation of housing. Emergency repairs is the activity we do this through, and you'll see that that's worth 20 points. That's followed by infrastructure, which is our water and sewer connections, public services after that, economic development, down payment assistance, broadband internet, and then sidewalks. For home, we prioritize the acquisition or rehabilitation of vacant units for sale or rental. That's followed by new construction, and then owner-occupied rehabilitation, but that's only for the city of North Charleston. For CHOTO projects, it's the same. Rehabilitation is prioritized. And for ESG, we prioritize rapid rehousing, followed by shelter operations. Before we get into talking about funding recommendations today, we did mention a contingency plan. This just basically is a plan for if our funding is different from the projected amount, if it's less, if it's more. You'll see we have a plan that was approved last year in your presentation. So for ESG and home funding, we either increase or decrease funds evenly across the project recommendations based on what we actually receive from HUD. And for CDBG, it's a little bit different. If the allocation is more, the additional funding will go into the well and septic program. And if it's less, it will be decreased evenly across all projects. And that's the conclusion of our presentation.
All right, the next item on the agenda is a discussion concerning funding recommendations and the contingency plan for this year's urban entitlement funds. You want to go ahead and,
Where it kind of comes down to y'all. You'll see in your funding worksheet there, there's projected funds. We have a worksheet here on the screen as well, so as y'all's discussion moves forward, I will fill different recommendations into the spreadsheet so we can see how many dollars remain. You'll see in the top right, we'll start with CDBG. After admin is removed, our portion to allocate this year, we're projecting to be about $409,000. We are limited for public services. We're allowed to spend no more than 15% of our CDBG allocation on public service projects, which have been categorized separately in that spreadsheet. So we can't spend more than $133,000 on public services, and the balance can be used for the priority projects, which is emergency housing repairs, or economic development project.
so, for the public service projects, it's $133,000, right? But we know that at a minimum, for all the public service projects, they've requested at a minimum $225,000. So do y'all see that? Does everyone see that? Any thoughts or suggestions on?
Well, maybe we can start eliminating some of the applicants based on the comments from the staff and their review.
And also, maybe just a quick clarification, when it says minimum amount accepted, that means we cannot recommend an amount, they won't accept an amount lower than that, correct? What?
We can offer them less than that.
Okay.
It's just something that we've always included in our application packet, and we've had discussions among staff that may be something that needs to change in future years because we are receiving more applicants and our funding projections are less than what the minimums are adding up to be.
Right.
We do typically keep our minimum at a required $10,000, or Gail, is the $10,000, just because the staff effort that's put into projects is about the same once you hit that 10,000 and below. So I think to preserve staff efforts and ensure we have the capacity to manage all these projects, we just require that no less than $10,000 be allocated.
Okay.
However, if the advisory board, would like to discuss a difference in that, you're more than welcome to do so.
Yeah, and my thought with that too, to follow up on Desiree, is just, if the minimum amount they will accept is 50,000, or a large amount, that takes up a lot of the funding for that category. So
Right.
just something to
Right.
keep in mind.
Well, we do have one that's from a score standpoint, is very, very low. 50%. I would suggest we remove that one.
Yeah.
As a start.
Can I make an additional suggestion, just to keep the ball rolling?
Sure.
Everybody with a A grade, being 90 and higher, gets their minimum as a, baseline.
Okay.
Yep.
90 and high.
With the exception of maybe Humanities Foundation, we may want to discuss, because that's a big chunk, and they've asked for the same price, or same amount, both max and min, so everybody above them, I would say, give the minimum that they've requested.
So you can see us.
Are they above 90?
40.
That's 70, that leaves what, 40? Or excuse me,
63.
63.
All right, so we're going 25, 15, 10, 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I would recommend we give the Humanities Foundation 10,000, I think.
I'm good with that. I was going to say 20.
Humanities Foundation 10,000.
1,000?
10 on all the rest of the, what does that leave us? If you, I mean, I'm just, 7 over.
Well, we take out Project Love.
Yeah.
That's without project.
Included it? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's,
Maybe Carolina Youth Development Center, I mean, the comments talk about how difficult it is for them to manage federal grant funding. Maybe that's some feedback we can provide, or more time allowing them to show their capacity meet standards, I think.
So remove that one.
so you're saying remove that one?
That would be my suggestion.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree. That leaves us with 3.
That keeps us under the 133, yeah.
So is that 130?
Would you all prefer to have that placeholder of 3,000, or should we distribute that among the allocation?
I think I would suggest using the maximum allowed for public service projects, since it is such a competitive pot and we are so limited.
Okay. Maybe split that between the top 2. I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah,
Maybe the top 3, they're all above
get
90.
1,000 at each.
Yeah, give them each an extra 1,000 or.
So you're saying 1,000 for each for the top 3?
Yeah, Pro Bono, East Echo, and then the Area Senior Citizen Center, maybe distribute it between those 3 top organizations.
Okay.
Is this the maximum amount of money that could be obtained without striking all of these, lowering the?
This amount is based on a projected award that HUD released a letter for. It's not specific to our site. It's the total amount of funding that they'll be allocating for CDBG funding for this program year. So our financial officer has created a projected amount that we can expect to receive based on that value.
Yeah.
So then we have 276 for priority projects and economic development projects.
It's 10. Just did a blanket 10 across the board.
Priority projects. We have 276,487.
What about the economic development projects? That comes from the same pot, correct? Yes. So we,
That is a priority project?
It's not a priority project because it's not scored the same way within the consolidated plan, but it will come from the same pot of money.
Okay.
So there's 5 basically vying for the 276,000. Does everybody see that?
I would suggest we start with the minimum for Operation Homeworks, and then the town of Allendale. I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more about the comments included for the Home Dreams Foundation. They have a low score there.
Can y'all comment more about their projects?
Certainly, they continue to lack capacity to manage their project.
Is that a consistent issue year over year, or are they going through a tough?
It had been for the last 2 years. We actually did bring them on as one of our U.S. Treasury partners because we conducted eligibility, which meant they just had to worry about construction. But we did see some concerns even with that. So one person pretty much runs everything. And we're concerned.
One person?
Yeah, we're concerned about regulatory compliance when you have such diminished staff support and capacity.
I'd suggest, since we've got the funds available, maybe making the minimum for all three of those that we've already included at 60. Because Operation Home, Homeworks, all those are 135, 219, and 175. It's the classic conundrum of Town of Allendale getting 60 when they've only asked for 135, and do we only give Operation Home 36 because that's the minimum on their application versus their 175? I'd say we kind of treat those a little bit more consistently and not look so much at the minimum amount. Just my 2 cents.
You know, we could, I second that. We could almost go with an 80 for all three of those. Home Dreams, I think those comments are concerning. And then if we threw in the 15K for the economic development, we've still got,
Extra juice.
yeah.
So you're saying 80 for Operation Home, Homeworks, and Town of Allendale. And then 15 for the Association for Community and Economic Development, and that leaves us what?
What does that leave us?
Leaves us over budget in the. It does.
76?
76?
I think your Excel spreadsheet's off.
Is it?
Under the total economic development projects, it has a total of 255 right there. That should
Yeah.
say 15.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
It leaves you with $21,000.
Let me just ask a question, because being the mayor of Hollywood, I can tell you that Operation Home, Homeworks, and Home Dreams, they do a lot for the community. But if you look at Home Dreams, I was going to ask that question today, and I got the answer. Their staffing is a challenge, but the requirements that they're getting is high. So I don't know what we do here to assist with the staffing and the Home Dream Foundation, but they provide a lot of support, but they just don't have the staffing to get it out. And I don't know what we would do to assist that. Can you provide a comment?
I think Gail would probably be best to respond to that. Operation Home has also been heavily involved with our critical home repair program, and they've received funding through that as well. So I think maybe Gail can speak a little bit more to the capacity of their staffing and how that might reflect on the annual action plan.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. We had a City of North Charleston subrecipient that didn't realize that you wouldn't be scoring City of North Charleston. I apologize, I didn't hear the question.
Can you use the mic?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
My concern, being in the town of Hollywood, again, I'll say that Operation Homeworks of America and Home Dreams, they provide a lot of assistance in my area. I've received phone calls, application, they put in calls, they don't get application. And I was going to make that statement today based on staffing. What can we do, especially in the Home Dreams Foundation? They're understaffed, but they're really working hard. So how can we provide assistance, provide direction, and not take those dollars away? Because it's definitely an impact on the community. When I go back, I try to give answers. Individually, I call my constituents. I don't let my staff do those calls. And so I want to be able to be intelligent enough to say it's working. However, I think it's across the board with staffing. So what can be done at this level?
We certainly don't want to lose any of our repair subrecipients. But I find that when the nonprofit or subrecipient doesn't have capacity, then we do the work for them. So we certainly can't continue to fund a nonprofit or a subrecipient when they don't have enough staff to conduct eligibility and to manage their project. So we've mentored this group for a couple of years, and we're still seeing a reoccurrence of those concerns. They've got to recruit and keep staff so that we're not managing their grant for them.
Okay.
And there's a comment about, I mean, it concerns me that we're talking about a one-person operation, and then there's no financials provided, no audit. That just raises a lot of questions for me.
Yes. And they're very committed to serving citizens, and they do a lot of work in the Hollywood, Lincolnville area. But then once again, we pick up the areas that they can't perform in. And after several years, we're just concerned that this is a problem that needs to be resolved within their structure.
Have they spent funds from prior years, or have they completed previous projects, or is this their first? I don't think this is their first time. No, right?
With extensions, yeah, yes.
You made a point, Chelsea, about critical home repairs. They were a part of that program?
Yes. They were. And we conducted the eligibility, and still we saw concerns with the quality of work.
Okay. Okay.
Do you all want to split the 21 between the top three?
We could, or I was going to recommend giving the economic development their full 34.5. That's just a thought. That'd still leave us with a couple of thousand, but.
There is a note that the letters of, the amount of money requested was high for public service from
Oh, you're
staff,
right.
so-
I did underline that, so, okay. Yeah, Desiree, let's, I'm good with
Splitting it?
top three,
Top three?
yeah.
The only comment I would maybe suggest if we wanted to even have any more discussion was maybe just the top two. The notes in all and all, I think they're doing good work. But it says that their fiscal year 21 funds have not been expended. And the 22 contract still hasn't even been executed. So
So leave them at 80.
it's still over their minimum.
Can I add to that? So when I did the update summary, since I guess your notes were sent out, ONDAW did fully expend 21, and we did execute their PY 22 contract. But you're right, they're just beginning to enter into their PY 22 money now. So they have ERs in the pipeline to be cleared.
Okay.
So they have money on the table, projects identified, but they have not yet begun construction with their PY 22 funds.
I would still split it on the top two.
Yeah.
Top two.
All right, so run through that again. We're doing,
Basically 95 and some change per person.
for the top two.
Yeah, per
80 for
Excuse me.
all and all,
90 and some change.
15.
All and all at 80. And then economic is at 15? Is everyone good with that?
Yeah.
Do we need to take a vote per?
It's up to you. You can either vote on each pot of money separately, or you can do all the recommendations for all three grant sources and then do one vote on the full recommendation. It's
Yeah.
to you.
Ms. Carson, when you said with Operation Homes or Homework of America, I'm not sure which one, that when you, far as the quality of work been a problem in the past?
Home Dreams Foundation.
Home Dream Foundation?
With their treasury funds, yes. They did have some issues with securing competent construction workers, and this is after we conducted eligibility. So they have a desire, they have a commitment, but their internal structure needs some work.
This after inspection has been done? After inspection has been done on the final work?
There were delays, there was unsatisfactory construction work without a lot of oversight from the project manager.
All right, what's the next one?
Funding. Our projected amount here is $394,000, a little over that. You'll see that we're required to obligate no less than a little over $65,000 to our Chodo projects. I don't see that being an issue, but you'll see they're divided by rehabilitation and new construction.
I have a little bit of concern about all three at the bottom. It seems like Metanoia, Tri-County Weatherization, and Community First Land Trust, all three had some remaining projects that are maybe struggling a little bit. You want to add to that, or are you good?
I do want to add to it.
Okay.
So Metanoia has a lot of projects in the pipeline,
Okay.
but they get them done.
Okay.
And they've just completed 2 projects, new construction for sale, and now they're working on another. So
Okay.
they have a lot of projects that they undertake, but they get them done.
it.
And
Okay.
they're quality, they're excellent.
Okay.
So I just wanted to add that.
Yes, thank you.
And did we check with Community First? Because that's a wide range, minimum 15? And that was correct? That's what they,
That's correct.
okay.
I understand at the beginning there's an outstanding lawsuit.
Yes, their contractor failed to complete the project.
Okay.
There was a forensic construction review,
Okay.
and there's litigation, and the contractor did not have the resources to cure the deficiency, so there's a lawsuit. So it's no fault of theirs.
Got it.
And the lawsuit's been pending for quite some time. They cannot go in to fix that house
Okay.
until the lawsuit has been resolved.
Okay.
And this funding is not for that same project, it's a
No.
different project?
No.
Right.
Okay,
No, this is now program year 23. I believe they had a program year 19 project open, program year 21, and 2 projects for program year 22.
so only one is stalled by the lawsuit?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And just to clarify for Metanoia, the minimum is 200. That's a pretty big minimum. It can be 100? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I don't see on our sheets, but what is we're under obligation to commit
65.
at least 65?
Yes.
Okay.
For Chodo projects. But again, I don't think that will be an issue, as 3 out of 4 of these are Chodo.
Right.
That's not a number per project, it's just for the entire allocation, okay.
Just to get the ball rolling, I'm going to say 100,000 for the 3 new construction. Thoughts?
Metanoia's 230,000 is the request. That's for 4 households. So if you give them enough for half of their proposed households, that's 115. That'd be my only comment. They have the highest score, so
Yeah, I would do that.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So 115 for,
And then you give the 70 to pastors.
yeah.
And
Do we feel comfortable with the 100,000 for Community First Land Trust with the issues that they have?
Concerned about the lack of financials for both of those.
Yeah.
I would think that would be pretty important to submit with your application.
Which ones?
For the Community First Land Trust, there were no financials, as well as the Tri-County
Tri-County,
weatherization.
Team, how often is that like an issue, do y'all see? I mean, obviously, these folks have to do financials, whether or not they've submitted them as our application. Yes, it's certainly concerning, but do y'all go back and get them retroactively? Do they send them later? What's your take on that?
Application completeness is one of the criteria they are scored on. Once it's submitted, and there's no follow-up.
On Community First Trust, 275 and given 15, is there any time of rejection of funds?
Are you asking if people can reject?
I mean, has this happened? Yes.
I don't believe so. Gail, have we ever had anybody reject funding?
Not urban entitlement, no.
Have you ever considered including as part of your criteria, just making an application ineligible if financials are not provided? I know that sometimes for these are, small organizations, audited financial statements, and we're talking about things that cost a lot of money to actually produce, but at least some effort at some checks and balances there that we could see. I guess I would just be concerned that if they don't submit it, we don't go back and either, even if we don't score them because they didn't complete it with they didn't submit it with the application, just some check that, that they have systems in place that could guarantee us that the monies are being allocated appropriately.
Our financial officer is not here, but I believe that his scoring did reflect that element being missing. Correct? I mean, I'm sure that it did reflect it, so I will take that recommendation back to him. Some of our smaller nonprofits, when they apply, they don't have some of the policies in place, and we do help them develop it, but for an established subrecipient or applicant, that is something that they need to have.
A thought could be, since they've only requested 15 as a minimum, we could boost Metnoia up to give them like 2/3 or 3/4 of their amount, which would be 172,500, and then reduce Community First Land Trust down to like 50. Would that put us in the ballpark?
392.
And then, and maybe not 172, give Tri-County their full minimum.
Or I was thinking pastors, what about upping them a little bit closer to their,
I think that we definitely should fund the minimums for at least maybe Tri-County if we're doing that. But,
100, yeah, I see you, 112.
because they have a pretty good,
Okay.
right, they're a pretty stabilized group. Tri-County weatherization.
They are, yes.
They are, okay. So
That
we're
puts us
over.
over.
Yeah.
Maybe reduce Community First Land Trust by that difference, the 10, 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Looks good.
Any other thoughts? Mr. Binky?
It's good to me.
Okay.
Yes, I'm good.
You good? Okay, moving right along.
Emergency Solutions Grant. you'll see that we're projecting receiving about $134,000. We have 3 applicants for this pot of funding this year. We've divided them by the 2 project types, rapid rehousing and shelter operations. And you'll see that no more than 60% of our projected allocation can be spent on shelter operations. So that's capped at $94,000.
Just to throw something out there, I'm going to propose the top one gets the max, 52.2. The formation project gets 20,000, and then the remaining for 180 place. Totally for discussion.
I would give the minimum to the formation project and give more to 180. They had a higher score.
I think they're the same amount.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And their maximum and minimum is the same number, so.
Yeah,
I think that's
Yeah.
appropriate.
yeah. And then 180 is the only one that can't exceed by itself 94. Is that, okay.
So, the only question would be, do you want to split 180 and Florence Creighton a little more equitably, or just leave it alone?
I think we're funding Florence at their max.
Oh, yeah, never mind, sorry about that. Yep.
I'll make a motion that we recommend as presented, the allocation for the 3 projects or 3 programs.
I'll second.
Any other thoughts, questions?
Very good.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
This brings us back to our contingency plan, which we have here on the screen.
Run through that again, please.
Sure. So the contingency plan basically lays out how funding will be spent if we receive more or less than the projected amount. You have the option of keeping this the same unless you see it fit to change things a little bit. For emergency solutions grant and home projects, if the funding is more or less, changes will be made evenly across projects. For CDBG funding, if we receive more than our estimated allocation, all of that addition will go into the well and septic program that's run by community development. And if there's less, that amount will be decreased evenly across all projects.
I have we were pretty short on the CDBG, and if I remember correctly, last year it was a little bit closer. Am I wrong there? I wanted to say we had a little bit more. Didn't we get more than we thought last year?
Yes.
Since we were kind of short a little bit on the CDBG, and we already have 300 held, how has that been allocated? Has that been used every year pretty quickly? The well stuff, what I'm getting at is maybe proposing, and instead of going into the well, any excess be given to the recipients in pro rata.
Gail, I believe can you speak to the well and septic program? I don't have as much knowledge about the use of those funds.
So we're always working from a waiting list, and there's a waiting list now. We are using some treasury funds, but we're also now doing connections, so it's not just well and septic, we're also connecting homeowners to existing water lines and mains. So we actually expanded the scope of what those funds can do.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine. I was just open because I know there's some newer folks on the board. That's another program that they do, and if we wanted, because last year we did get more money, I thought, didn't we, than we initially planned, so there was the additional money in the well and septic. The question is, Do you want to add additional well and septic again, or do we want to give it more to the project? That's pretty much the question.
Do you have any comments on that, Luella? I mean, you've been working well and septic.
Any thoughts?
Sounds like it's needed in the well and.
Yeah.
I'm all for getting people clean.
Sure.
Water, yeah.
And it's
Any
expensive.
excess, absolutely, yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Just bringing it up for discussion for the record. I 100% agree.
So we're going to keep the contingency plan the way it is then?
Yes.
We need to vote on that as well? Okay, all those in favor of keeping the contingency plan as is, say aye.
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 All opposed? The ayes have it.
I don't know if there was a motion on the table, just to,
There was no motion.
right, there was no
There
motion.
was no motion. It was a-
A motion to keep
Can I
the-
have a motion?
I motion to keep the contingency plan as is.
A second.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
Question, was there a vote to accept the ESG recommendations?
The motion was to accept all three programs, yeah.
Also, you said you never had somebody reject funds, correct?
Not urban entitlement.
CDBG, because there was a couple, for instance, Humanities Foundation only got, if we can go back to that slide, a small amount. Same with Charleston Urban League, substantially less. See, their minimum is 30 and 25 respectively, and we're putting 10 towards them. Same thing, I guess you could say with Low Country Youth. If for whatever reason they rejected it, that's another, any of those rejected them, do you want that to go to well, or what happens there?
Can it go to well and septic if they reject it?
I believe that would fall under the contingency plan. I,
Okay.
For excess funds, like you would
Right.
treat it as that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're good on everything? On all the votes?
I mean, at that rate, if there is a rejection and there's other ones that need more money that we awarded them, could that money be distributed, or how will we make that decision?
Contingency plan.
Well, once you agree on a contingency plan, it goes back into well and septic unless you do something different?
I think that you would maybe know a little bit more about that than if,
I think we could break up if we wanted to, receiving more money than we projected versus not distributing what we've voted on.
Right.
So if for whatever reason that, let's just take Charleston Urban League. If they say, we don't want $10,000, we don't want to have to do with it, we can then decide, if we've allocated that money to them, that allocated money, we could either distribute over other allocation people, or we could say that should be treated the same as the contingency, I think is the discussion.
I would agree. I'm so used to centralized control instead of decentralized. And what you're saying is, if that money should be rejected, we should allow the staff to have the flexibility, put it in a contingency, then pull it out. Let them manage it.
When will we know? When will we know if there are any projects that reject any funding that we suggested today?
This goes to council.
this funding recommendation will go to council on April 4th. After that is approved, if it is approved, we'll be sending award letters out. Griffin, does that happen in April? So award letters will go out in April, and then they'll have the opportunity to accept or reject at that point.
Amounts from the, I guess, federal government, when do you know those amounts?
Last year, I don't think we got them until July.
So it's actually pre-award letters. We send a pre-award letter notifying them that once we have the official allocation, there'll be an award letter.
Okay.
So at that point, if they elect to reject, then we're in the pre-award phase.
So is the consensus, if somebody rejects it, that goes into the well and septic? Is that what everybody would like to see done?
Yeah, I'll make it in the form of a motion.
Absolutely.
I second.
Just to clarify, the motion is that if any funds are rejected, those are treated in the same manner as the contingency funds.
Correct.
That's right.
Right.
All those in favor say aye.
Contingency plan. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Few notes before we move forward that I meant to mention at the end of the presentation. I know we talked previously about engagement opportunities for the board.
Sure.
We are working on finalizing our schedule of activities for Community Development Week, which will be April 10th through the 14th. Once we have that schedule finalized, we will distribute it to the board and we'll allow you opportunities to participate in those if interested. And for the bylaw committee, that meeting will probably happen sometime within the next few months over the summertime between now and our meeting in the fall.
All right, so a public hearing concerning today's recommendations will be held on April 4th, 2023, at the County Council meeting in council chambers. The next formal meeting of this board will take place in November of 2023. Thanks to all that have participated. Is there anything else that needs to come before this board today? If not, meeting's adjourned. Thank y'all so much.